Good evening and welcome to FTB Sport. And tonight's focus is in the championship. We only have nine days to go before it kicks off our week on Friday night. So if you're getting excited in the Premier League, got to think about it. The championship kicks off even before the Charity Shield. Anyway, this is FTB Sport. Like us, share us, tell your mates. You know, it's not all about the big four teams in the Premier League. We want to talk about Fulham, who have desires to get back to that. First of all, a quiz time. Fellas, what's this shirt I'm wearing tonight? As a Man City fan, what the hell am I wearing tonight and why might I be wearing it?
I was going to ask if it's the new Man U logo, but no. As a City fan, I'm guessing not.
No, and it's not Southampton.
Is it Spanish? Spanish. Is it La Liga or is it a lower league?
No. Can you see it?
Bilbao.
Yes, Athletic Bilbao. And why am I wearing it? Because it's now Merrick Laporte shirt. From before he came to City. So I'm wearing an Athletic Bilbao. Anyway, back to the matter in hand. So the championship kicks off 9 days away. Fulham, unfortunately, after playing beautiful, exciting football with Scott Parker, which I relished and praised last season, unfortunately, just didn't have what it took to stay up, even though I thought they made a good go of it. Apart from the last few games, they made a really good go of it. First of all, just wanted to say that, I moved to London about 14 years ago. And the reason that I know Rick, who is the fine, handsome fellow with the glasses in the middle, is that Rick was my next door neighbour. And we started to go and watch Fulham in all sorts. We saw Danny Murphy at his ex-Liverpool prime and Scott Parker playing after Tottenham. We saw some glory years, with Roy Hodgson there managing the team, the UEFA Cup final, etc. It was a glorious time. And, we saw them under all sorts of conditions because the Cottage is a great ground to go and watch. They sell like the best burgers in the world, but it's windswept. I remember once being there with Rick. I think it was either just after Christmas or New Year's Day or something like Boxing Day. And there was snow on the terraces and the wind was coming off the Thames. And it was probably -10 wind chill factor. And I was frozen beyond belief. Anyway, chaps, I thought I'd throw it over to yourself now. Actually, welcome, Terry. You are absolutely welcome to that. Tell us first, how long you've been following Fulham? What's your relationship with Fulham?
Sure. I was born and bred in Fulham. I started going probably mid to late high school years, sort of back in the mid 90s. Dragged along initially at that time. I wasn't particularly interested in football. My dad was a keen and avid Fulham fan, so reluctantly to begin with, I was going to the Cottage very regularly. And sort of by the age of about 15, 16, really started enjoying it. So it kind of flourished from there. I've pretty much been going on and off ever since, sort of through A-levels up through university. I had a season ticket, then had to face the stark realities of having a job and not being able to attend anywhere near as many as I had done for the previous sort of 4 or 5 years. So I've kind of gone as many times as I can since. But I say the sort of love affair began really about 25 years ago, giving my age away a bit now.
Just wanted to say that there's an Elsa Pinto watching. Well done on the Bilbao spot. Well done for you on that. And if anyone else is spotting that there's a cop talk emblem at the bottom, you can't let these scousers in anyway. Someone's graffitied on the screen like Liverpool. They're going to nick my laptop in a minute, but we'll have to continue with that. Some scousers graffitied on our screen cop talk, but it's not cop talk. This is Fulham Cottage talk. Cottage pie. Cottage cheese.
Stop. Just stop before you go any further.
All right. No more cottage jokes. Rick, tell us about your relationship with Fulham, because you weren't born there.
No. I wasn't born there. I moved up to London about 16 years ago, and prior to moving over, I was in New York City, and I was looking at getting a season ticket. And as I was looking at football for the first time, as football rather than soccer, I decided to that Fulham would be a good team to follow. There were some great Americans on the squad at the time. You had Brian McBride, who was the captain, Casey Keller in goal, Carlos Bontanagra in defense. And over the years, Fulham, for whatever reason, maybe it was the allure of or the draw of Brian McBride, but they'd had a steady stream of decent Americans, and it just sort of seemed like a natural fit for somebody new to the sport. It was a great team. They always played with heart, and the games, they were always exciting. They'd always be in there pitching. And I think the first season I started following them, Chris Coleman was the coach, and it was tooth and nail right up to the end. And to follow that team that had sort of just stayed up through the Hodgson years to the Europa Cup final was, it's just one hell of an experience, because you go from the utter highs of staying up on goal difference, winning at Pompey away, to 2 seasons later being in the Europa Cup final. It's just an unbelievable story, and it's a fantastic team.
Sir Roy Hodgson, that's what I say. Sir Roy Hodgson, services to football. Everyone forgets that. But
Sir Roy.
Fine. So last time, gentlemen, we had this little chat. Last time we had, Scotty was heading for the door just about. It was kind of like the world's worst kept secret. He was going to Bournemouth and they were negotiating, but he left. What are your thoughts about? Go on, Terry, take us away, Tezza.
I'm very interested. As with any new announcement, new manager, you read any fan zone, and everybody's generally, I say everybody, the majority of the comments I saw were very negative. But I figure give the guy a chance. Let's see what he does. He's managed in England before at a number of clubs. He's certainly got the appetite. He seems to have his targets in mind, already making a few signings, which is very un-Fulham-like. We tend to leave everything until the last minute, certainly have done in recent years. So it's good and refreshing to see some decisions being made much earlier. And obviously the sort of positive to see some of the other key players that were absent last year, most noticeably Mitrovic training. Hopefully he's there at the start of kickoff in just over a week's time. And yeah, I'm keen. I've sort of followed some of his reign before, and I think he's sort of, when he was managing Everton, they kind of finished roughly where they were seasons before and soon after. So I guess it remains to be seen, but I'm quietly confident.
Rick, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you gotta support the gaffer. It'll be interesting to see how he is able to manage relationships with the owners, because Scotty Parker and the last couple managers have really just not gotten on with Khan, or maybe it's Tony Khan, but just to see how they manage that. He's young, he's eager. We haven't at least when the chairman wrote his letter about appointing him, he said when he met the guy, he had a very strong understanding of the type of players that Fulham had and how they might be able to work in his system. So I don't know if that's sort of foreshadowing a lack of big spending. We've spent about just shy of 20 million so far in transfers with nothing outgoing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with the team, if he can really mold it and make it into his own with the players that they have. Having as mentioned earlier, following Fulham as long as I have, I actually kind of like Fulham in the Championship as opposed to the Premiership. They play a lot more and they win a lot more, and I'm hoping that that'll flow through to this turn in the Championship.
Cool. Yeah, I remember when Marco Silva came to Watford initially, wasn't it, in England, and he did have a good reputation. He was quite young. I think he was only maybe late 30s, 40. He was going to be the bright young thing, and then he had a purple patch at Watford. It went on, and just like every manager at Watford, it seems, you last about a season, 2 if you're really lucky. Even if you do well, you get fired at Watford. I don't know what it is about Watford, but They certainly get through their managers. And then, you know, he got the big gig going to Everton. And I can't remember, I think he took him to about 8th. And he was doing well for a while, and then it kind of fell apart. So I guess he's got, you know, Premier League, English football under his belt. I mean, for God's sake, somebody's got to get the best out of Mitrovic. For God's sake, you know, Scotty Parker didn't.
Yeah.
You know, he was sat there as he's Serbian or Croatian?
Serbian.
He's something like Serbian's record goal scorer, you know, and caps holder and the whole works. And yet, you know, he wasn't even getting a game at Fulham. I could not understand that. Couldn't understand that. So maybe Marco Silva can get the best out of Mitrovic, and maybe he's more designed for the Championship. You know, he's a bit of a bully, isn't he?
Yeah, and I hope so. I think he's probably got a personal point to prove as well. We don't know the reasons behind why he wasn't playing, but I think it would be foolish not to guess with confidence that there was some conflict between him and Parker. So certainly with Parker being at Bournemouth, I think he wants to come out and prove him wrong. And the only way he will do that is by scoring goals. And, you know, as you say, he's a bit of a bully. You can see when he's having a good game and when he's interested and when he really wants to prove the opposition wrong. And I think that, you know, the best way for him to take that aggression out and frustration for maybe missing so much of last season would be to, you know, have an excellent season with us. So hopefully that sort of spurs him on through the season, and, you know, he gets 20 plus goals again as he did 2 seasons back.
Good. Let's hope. Let's say good evening to Rosa. Buenas tardes, senors. Good evening, Rosa. And Charles up there said hello as well. And Elsa was just saying that she did actually read it. Good vibes. I think she means from our show. So great. Good. So we're preparing 9 days to go. Just remind me, Terry, what players have left? We know Anderson, who did really well at centre back, has just gone to Palace. You know, I think Palace have spent 20 mil on him, 5-year contract. I thought every time I watched him playing for Fulham, he was bloody good.
Yeah, he was great to watch. You know, he filled me with so much confidence. I think certainly the first sort of 3-4 games that led to that sort of complete change at the back. Very soon after, you know, give credit to Parker and the Fulham ranks for being able to pull the other players in that sort of tore out the season for us so quickly and swiftly and adapted so well. You know, you forget that Anderson was actually injured for the first 5 or 6 games too. So he was there watching, chomping at the bit, and came on and had a fantastic season. I guess it's a pity really that we didn't stay up because we lost so many. There were a good few games last season where the entire back five. So Areola, he's still sort of floating around, but I'm sure that he's being rumoured to be going to West Ham, sort of wants to stay in London seemingly. You know, Lookman's gone. He sort of looked very good and hungry at the beginning. I guess he kind of got a bit found out as the season went on. But yeah, he sort of rattled his own cage after that atrocious penalty, and then looked. Yeah, he looked really good thereafter for a bunch of games, but then I think sort of became a bit clueless as the season went on in terms of finding his way into the games, you know. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, say loans, it's always a bit of a dangerous game taking so many loan players on because look, you get relegated, you're kind of back to the drawing board again. But luckily for us, and I think sort of deservedly so, some of the players that got us up there in the first place will get a second stab. We don't seem to have lost too many just yet. I mean, Hansen left, which it was sort of sad to see him go, but I think if he wants any playing time, he needed to go somewhere else, and seemed to have a good season at QPR last year, so sort of happy for him to depart and move on. If Kenny stays fit or gets fit and sort of stays there, I think that will be great for us too. But yeah, I mean, it's positive to see some permanent signings so far, and yeah, I think if we get a couple more, we're being linked with this chap from Flamenco up front who, you know, I've never seen him play before, but I've read nothing but positive comments about him so far. We've apparently had a bid rejected already, but Silva's keen to want him apparently, so we'll see how that goes. And if we do have a second striker up there to support Mitrovic, I think it will be to our benefit for sure. Okay,
so over to you, Rick, the only man who can make Mitrovic look like a little chap. Isn't our Rick over there? I'd be interested to see you and Mitrovic stood beside each other, Rick. I reckon you're still a bit taller and a bit broader than Mitrovic, but that's
I'm as always, I'm working on it. I'm making a concerted effort,
Still reckon
you
you
know,
get around the pitch a bit quicker than Mitrovic did occasionally, but there you go. So talk to us about the players coming in. Obviously, you've got the lad from Flamenco, but more importantly with that, we've got the amazing Harry Wilson from Liverpool. He was talked about. Is that deal done now?
That deal is done. He is on the website. He's got the Fulham shirt on. He's talking about how great it is to come to the team, and he's really happy with the first chat he had with Silva. We'll see how he slots into the squad. I think the important where Fulham fell apart last year was in the midfield. When Kearney got injured, you didn't have sort of that field marshal running the ball up through the middle. He's 30 years old now, carrying a fairly meaningful injury. So you have to sort of wonder if he's going to be able to be as aggressive as he had been in the last tour in the championship. Or is he going to be able to sort of slot back into that Scotty Parker, Danny Murphy role and, sort of lead the ball up from the back four?
But Carney, isn't he?
He's captain, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think having him back, having his presence on the pitch will make a difference. It certainly did at the end of the season last year. Not being on the pitch.
What do you know of Harry Wilson? What do you know about him? Have you ever seen him play? What's his reputation?
Just fits and starts from the Euros. I don't know much about his reputation, but similar to the lad from Brazil, the stuff that I've read about him, it seems like we've managed a bit of a coup.
Yeah, that's everyone's saying. £12 million. Fulham have spent a lot more than that on lesser players.
We spent about that much on Andy Johnson about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, he was about 50 by then, wasn't he? With 2 false knees.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, the only reason we bought him was to keep Jimmy Bullard company on the physio bench.
Yeah. But, what do you think, Tezza?
Yeah, I mean, like yourselves, I've not really seen too much of him so far, but quite a few friends and, in fact, a couple of neighbours are avid Liverpool fans. And although he didn't break into the first team and spent the last couple of seasons on loan in the Championship, they're very sort of sad to see him go and have promised me personally that there'll be good things to come from him. So look, I'm keen, I'm happy, and sort of echoing some of what we said about Silva before. I read the comments that I'm sure you guys did as well. How Wilson saying how impressed he's been with Silva, in the conversation they had, and he sort of convinced him to come reeling off stats and sort of speaking of his play and how he could see him fitting into the team. So Silva's definitely done his homework on the players that are there. He has his way of playing, which he sold to these players. So yeah, it's good. Like I'm pleased. So this guy's played in the Championship the last 2 seasons. I think he was at Blackburn, and I can't remember the one the season before. Was it maybe Derby? But scored a handful of goals and had quite a few assists last year. So good. I'm enthused by it, and I think he'll have a good season for us.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope so for you. It's interesting how many, of those ex-Liverpool players who didn't quite get into the team but were really rated. I've actually never made it. I remember when, I think it was Dominic Solanke went to Bournemouth. Was it Bournemouth or Bournemouth? And they paid a lot of money for him from Liverpool, and he was going to be the new hope. And he's actually, I think he scored a few goals in the Championship last season, but he was awful. But I mean, but going further than that, Ryan Brewster, who left Liverpool with a massive reputation, he was going to be a star, 20 million quid, and he didn't even get in the Sheffield United team. Now he could again. He may flourish in the Championship and come back. Both players are still relatively young, so I hate to tell you, lads, but this is the third. Liverpool great new hope that some of the club has signed up front. So let's just hope it's third time lucky, yeah.
Well, it's about time we got something off of Liverpool after they took Elliott off of us.
Yeah. So, hey, it's
might
good
be putting
to
the
see
cart
the
before the
leadership
horse.
has gone off the screen and been replaced by FTB Sports. I know, taking a liberty or whatever. I mean, usually they just brick the Man City bus and send off fireworks and all that, and now they're graffitiing our screen for the night. I mean, for goodness sake, get a grip. And just last thoughts on Fulham before we talk about the Championship in general. What other positions do you feel it's pretty urgent to fill? You talked about Carney maybe injury prone, maybe not robust enough at 30 for the Championship, but are you solid at goalkeeper, defensive? Who's going to replace Anderson alongside it's Tosin who we got from Liverpool, from Man City, who's a really good young centre back still. I think he's still in like 22 or something like that. He's great. You've got at the back, but what other positions are vulnerable for Fulham? Where else do you need to fill? Is it Lookman replacement? Outside wings?
I mean, well, Wilson can apparently play that kind of number 10 or on the right wing, so I'm told. So I think that's covered. You've got this Tottenham / free agent Gazaniga in goal, backing up, or well, remains to be seen. Is it going to be him or Rodak number 1? Obviously, Bettinelli's gone to Chelsea today, so
yeah.
great scoop by him, and wish him all the best. But I think we need some.
He's got a couple of goalkeepers in front of him, hasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
In fact, he must have £100 million worth of goalkeeping in front of him. There's not many. Imagine you sign for a club and you go, "Oh, don't worry, you might get a chance to make it in the first team." There's only £100 million worth of goalkeepers in front of you. But anyway, sorry, Terry, keep going.
No problem at all. Yeah, I think some of the other sort of attacking midfielders that we have, the Caballeros, you've got Knockout back. Unsure how they're going to line up, and indeed if they're going to be used as much. But I think some of our stronger midfielders last year that by in part were playing kind of that supportive striker role. Bobby Reed. I think there'll be enough to help us through the Championship. I think even if we don't sign another striker, I think Reed will certainly have a stab up front, or certainly a more advanced role than he did in the Premier League, with Mitro up front hopefully. So I think I'm quietly confident. There's always this assumption that you come down, you're going straight back up. We all know that's not the case, but certainly I think looking at our squad on paper, we have a very, very good chance of bouncing straight back up, and please no playoffs. We want that first spot or second.
And Watford weren't down for long, so it can be done. Rick, any positions that you can see are holes to be filled, or how many players would you like them to sign before the end of the month?
Well, yeah, I don't think they really, given the talent that we're retaining, I don't think they really need to go out on a massive signing spree. Invest in the club, and sort of keep the money and see how things develop. I think that might be part of Silva's plan though as well, just to get a few games under him, maybe see where the holes are. I think depth, a little bit better depth in midfield, given the pace and frequency of games, because it was injuries in the midfield which really hamstrung us last year. So just solidifying the depth there. The back four, I think Tim Ream's probably going to be anchoring it this year. Good, strong American presence. I hope. We'll have to see when they get out there and Silva plays his game. But Mitro works well. But if he goes down or gets injured, we definitely, because Abu Kamara has definitely got to be on his way out. So that doesn't leave much in the way of depth at striker. But
we have a question just come in back from Elsa. So to Terry, between the eyes, from Elsa, why do you think fans were not excited at Marco Silva when he was appointed, and what kind of coach do you think Fulham actually needed? Why was it a lukewarm reaction?
It's very difficult to pinpoint. The instant negatives that I read were, well, look, he done nothing for Watford, he done nothing for Everton. Having looked, the stats and his performance as a manager at both of those places wasn't fresh in my mind. But having looked back at it, I think he was probably probably not given as much as much of a chance as perhaps he deserved at the time. I think he is the right type of coach from what I know about him. It's good to see Fulham going in for younger managers. We don't want to wheel out any of these guys that have been around the block forever, that are in their late 50s upwards, that seem to get fired everywhere. It's great to have somebody that's been in the Premiership, that's managed several clubs, who's coming down a bit with some ideas and imagination and being backed in the transfer market, seemingly thus far, at least. So, as I said at the outset, I'm quietly confident. I'm excited by it. He's someone
Hang
I know.
on. My phone's ringing, Terry. My phone's ringing. That's Neil Warnock. Neil, how you doing, mate? He said,
hang up.
I'm coming down the cottage, first game of the season. I'm nearly 70 years old, and I'm going to give him a good kicking. Cheers, Neil. See you around. Bye. Neil Warnock says you're in trouble for that, and he's there with Borough, first game of the season.
No problem.
You can see him. He's going to be loving it, isn't he? First game of the season at Fulham. Neil Warnock will be there on the touchline. He'll be pissing people off. He'll be giving some, the referee loads of cheer. He'll do a great win or lose. He'll do some great one-liners after the game. Yeah, coming on to that. Actually, that's a nice little adjacency. We'll move into the latter half of the show. Let's just, let's pause. 9 days. We've got the first match a week on Friday night, and then a full calendar over the weekend for the Championship. And I did actually just mention then, I think it's Borough at home first game, which is actually it's a good place to start. And I think if I remember, and then Huddersfield away. Thoughts about those first two games? Go on, Rick. Do you want to kick? Oh, actually, no. Put it to Terry.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough. Yeah,
Borough
it'll be interesting.
Huddersfield away.
They had a decent season last year. They obviously had a couple of the Fulham lads on loan there. Look, I think they're both very winnable games. Huddersfield, last time I was actually at Huddersfield was a game when we won promotion to the Premier League for the first time. So yes, it's a team that always instantly reminds me of that occasion. But they didn't have too much of a good season last year. So obviously we don't just turn up. We don't expect to win games. But if we don't, we're not entitled to just win games. If we don't expect to get 6 points from those two, I'd be sort of quite disappointed, to be honest with you. Very winnable. I think let's send the league a positive message. Let's get some comfortable goals. No 1-0 wins, please. Come on. Let's start it off with 2 very encouraging 3-4-0 wins. I'll be a very happy man in a couple of weeks if that's the case.
Good. Quick comments in from Gemma. I just want to wave to Gemma, who is a absolute passionate supporter of FTB Sport. She does loads for the channel.
Oh, Gemma.
But I reckon Gemma was personally responsible for that logo that ended up on our screen. She's graffitied it on. Sense of humour. Yeah. Thanks,
Fantastic.
Gemma. We've now got the FTB logo up there. It's okay. Rick, any thoughts about Middlesbrough first game out? Then the Terriers.
We've got a nice easy. Well, I say easy. None of the games are ever easy, but we've got a nice start to the season. I think the first 5 or 6 games are all very winnable. It should be a nice reintroduction to the Premiership. It should be allow for a decent opportunity for Silva to really test out his team. And as Terry says, a couple of nice big wins to start the season, get the confidence under your belt, building. I'm just looking at our schedule here. Out past, you've got Millwall away, Hull City at home. It's that 4th game of the season. That could be sort of the first real test. You have Hull and then Stoke both at home. It's good to have.
Some Hull lads coming on next week. Don't say anything too bad. They'll be around your house. You fancy a trip to the Den? Should we all go? Do you fancy it?
I'm up for that.
Yeah?
Come on,
go. Let's go to the Den and watch Fulham. It's like you.
But yeah, it's a soft start to the campaign, and it's sort of, I'm touch wood when I say that, but in football as in life, confidence is a big thing. So getting some nice good wins, show that the team works, get the manager, get the fans behind the manager, and onwards and upwards.
Good. I was just having a little read online earlier in the day, and there was some pundit talking about how they felt that the championship would finish out. I gave you a link, I think, on Twitter, Rick, and he reckoned West Brom would win the league, I think he said, and Fulham would be 7th, which I thought was a bit disingenuous. I think he had Reading 4th or winning the playoff place, which okay, good luck to that one. I wasn't quite in agreement with all his choices. The only one I thought he was dead certain about was he had Derby bottom, which I think that's a fairly. At the moment, I think they can field about 7 or 8 players. But give him a few more training sessions with Rooney, and he'll take them out, and they'll be down to 3 or 4 for the weekend. This weekend of the season. But let's actually start. Bookies wise, it's Fulham and West Brom who are the favourites to win the championship. West Brom appointed Ishmael, the guy who really, really had a good season at Barnsley last season. I mean, they punched so far above their weight. That felt like a really solid appointment. They've managed to keep most of their players together at West Brom. They battled hard at the end of last season. Whereas Fulham kind of fell away a bit. West Brom were trying to fight it under Allardyce at the end. He will have taught them some good disciplines. What do you think? Are they the team to beat? The Boom Boom Baggies?
It's hard to see them, given how similar the squad is, shall we say, if not identical to the tail end of last year. As you rightly point out there, Ian, they had a good rally towards the end, obviously finished above us coming up the season before. It's hard to not say they'll be in contention at this stage, or at least guess them to be in contention. I think Sheffield United are going to give us a good run for our money as well. At times the table didn't reflect their performances, and it's something that I guess gets said a lot by people at the bottom, like ourselves. We got plenty of plaudits, but game after game after game, just picking up 1 point at a time. Others are just making up far more ground on the table than we were. Certainly after about sort of 20 games, they seem to be turning a bit of a corner in terms of their performances, at least Sheffield United, and missing out by that odd goal like we were at times, or sort of a goal ahead and dropping away from it later in the game, switching off at the vital points, as we know only too well ourselves. But they, I think they're certainly strong enough to have a good run in the championship, and would be surprised if they're not in the sort of the top 3 or 4 come the end of the season.
I'm shocked no one's bought Sander Berg yet from Sheffield United. Shocked.
Yeah.
I thought one of the teams coming up to the Premier League, Palace, or someone like that. I mean, he's a really good player. Anyone who's probably outside of the top 6, I would have thought would fancy him in their team. An Everton or someone of that sort of ilk, or a West Ham, or I think he's a good player. I think he's a certainly middle of the Premiership level player that Sheffield United have got there. Rick, who will keep you up at night if we've got to play him on Saturday? Who will you worry about?
You mentioned Sheffield United with Djukanovic in the managerial post, but you can't forget about Bournemouth and Scotty Parker. I mean, they're going to be in there pitching. My hope for Fulham is that we're able to get enough light between us and the playoff spot before sort of the middle of March. If we're still upper mid table, if we find ourselves upper mid table in late March, I mean, I don't want to do playoffs. I want to be well clear, not quite home and hose, but well
and
clear.
Not against Bournemouth. Can you imagine the playoff final with Scotty Parker in the other dugout?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, with Fulham going down and him going to Bournemouth, there has something bad had to have happened with the management, pure and simple. But I think between them, Sheffield United, West Brom, I mean, it's going to be an exciting season in the Championship. I mean, it always is.
And it's also interesting because Djukanovic, isn't it? Because he used to be Fulham manager and he's now at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a former manager coming to you at Sheffield United, a former manager at Bournemouth. I can't think of any other former managers there, but that's 2 who, but they'll be fired up for those games, won't they?
Yes. it'll be interesting to see, and definitely try and go to those games.
There won't be many other games with former managers against them as regular stuff. I think, when I was looking at the league, I was like Lee Boyer as a manager. He's at Birmingham. I think they might have not a bad season. Who's at Cardiff? Cardiff were playing quite well. Is Neil Harris still there as manager? Or is it Mick McCarthy now?
I believe it's Mick McCarthy. I think it's Mick McCarthy.
McCarthy now. That might be interesting. Cardiff, he's a good manager. So that, there's other clubs who could battle away. I also want to, we've got to also mention the kind of fairy tale stories. The three clubs that came up, we had Blackpool in the Championship. Blackpool were completely busted. Their ground's a wreck. They have no money. They were bankrupt, and to find themselves back in the Championship, you've got to take your hats off to Blackpool getting back up there. You've got to love Hull Tigers, who were in the Premier League and they, had all that success and then dropped 2 divisions very quickly, but have clawed their way, excuse the pun, back up. But the team I kind of, I want to put out there to everybody to look at is Luton Town. I mean, Luton Town, hey, I have bad memories of Luton Town. I remember in the early 90s that City lost the last game of the season in the old First Division. And David Pleat danced on the pitch in his brown suit and his white shoes. Okay, it was nearly 30 years ago. Luton sent City down to the second division. City were that bad in those days. So I've never quite forgiven Luton for that. But a club of that heritage to find themselves outside of the Football League. I mean, they were in the what do they call the league? The conference? Yeah, it's still
conference.
The National League. It's the National League,
Premier League.
Because then you've got the Conference North and South beneath that. But they were in the National League beneath, out completely finished. And to claw your way back through the leagues and end up back in the Championship, you've got to say, for the Luton Town fans out there, that's a good old story. So you've got three clubs there who will be delirious to be playing in the Championship. There is drama to come.
What's that?
A lot of drama to come this season.
Yeah.
Any league
there'll be a lot of teams running on emotion and love and passion there, which for them, obviously, when they're not playing us, hopefully it gets them some goals and some reward. It'd be very, very interesting to see the likes of Blackpool give it a good run. Given, as you say, the recent history. Luton, I remember I was working with a guy when Luton actually got relegated from the old third division, and he was in tears at work. I don't mean to laugh as I say that, but to see them back up, it's great. It's great for as a football fan to see that happen.
Yeah, it's good. It shows that dreams can come true. Guys, we're coming to the end of the show. Just last thoughts. Rick first, Terry second. Last thoughts on this season.
Well, I'm very excited. I think last time I was on, I stick by my assertion that Fulham will have the league wrapped up and not have to worry about the Championship. We've got a strong side, and hopefully we'll be able to capitalize on it and make this a very quick sojourn into the Championship. But I am expecting a lot of goals and a lot of wins. I think it's going to be an exciting team to watch this year. Come on, you Whites.
Good luck, Rick. Good luck. Tezza, take it away.
I echo everything Rick says there. I'd be very disappointed if we don't finish in the top 2, even third. I think that we should certainly give a better go of it than that. I think the squad's capable. There'll be players hungry, ready to prove a point, both for missing out last year, having got us up into the Premier League 2 seasons back, and the likes of Mitro. I think it can only be positive if these players stay fit. Gunning for the season to start, and I don't think it will be too many games in before we better our total home goals tally of 9 goals last season in the Premier League. Come on, Fulham.
Fab. My thoughts on it, if anyone's watching the show and hasn't been to Craven Cottage, you should. Certainly, it is the friendliest ground I've ever been to. It's not like a Crystal Palace or an Anfield or any of those sort of quite hostile environments. Fulham is a lovely ground where actually it's I think the only ground I can think of where the visiting fans and the home fans aren't segregated. You know, they kind of sit next to each other. There isn't great barriers between them. There's always a really good atmosphere, good food on the way to the ground. You know, it is in the raw as football used to be. There's a lot of standing, quite a lot of shouting and singing. And you freeze to death outside when you're getting your beer at half time. It's the way it kind of used to be. And I love it. I love football for that. And I absolutely genuinely wish Fulham all the best for the season. I'd love to see them get back up there. So good luck, chaps. Good luck. Have a great season.
Thank you.
Cheers. I'm going to hit the if you like the show, guys, everybody who's watching, share us. You know, tell your friends, Twitter, push it over. Yeah, Fulham are back.